I've never been knocked out. I know quite a people who have gone full lights out. So I've come close once. I remember seeing like tunnely vision and I got up and I rung my bell, but luckily I was still coherent, wasn't asking where we were. So helmet is for sure the most important, and good quality boots comes next. A lot of times it really bothers me when I go to the local track or local riding area and I see the family that they want to look cool, right? So they spend all this money for flashy riding gear, the new hip stuff, a cool helmet, but it's not an expensive helmet. It's just a generic graphics on a helmet. And then they don't have any boots on their kid. I'm like, what are you like? I literally wore jeans and a shirt till I was 12 years old every time I rode, unless it was an event, because I wore boots and a helmet that were important, So boots and helmet for sure. Number one, I wear knee braces just because I've had knee injuries, and I wore them before I had the knee injury, and there's stigma whether or not to run them, but I feel naked without them. So I'm going to keep wearing those.
Cody Webb, welcome to the We Get Outdoors podcast, vlogcast. I don't really know what it is these days. We could call it a show. For people who don't know anything about you, like, who are you? I know the bikes give it away. Who are you and what do you do?
I guess I'm a professional dirt bike racer. I race enduro motorcycles. So I race kind of extreme off-road races, whether it's like man-made tracks inside arenas, that's called Endurocross, or hard enduro events, which is basically survival of the fittest and just really beats you down mentally and physically. So grew up basically riding trials bikes, which are the bikes with no seats, if you've seen those, and kind of migrated my way into the enduro world.
Wow. I didn't know that there was that much in the US of that sort of riding style. It's something I'm very familiar with coming from the UK and Ireland, Europe, but how popular is this in the US?
The hard enduro scene, it's getting definitely more and more popular. We just had our first AMA, which is American Motorcyclist Association. We had our first actual overall championship season this year. So we actually had, I think, 10 races. We had more races than what the World Championship for hard enduros had this year. I felt like I was never home from June all the way through August, just traveling almost every weekend. So it's really good, and the sport is growing, and it's kind of a right place, right time. And when I first started riding motorcycles, the sport I do now isn't even a thing. And I kind of got into the scene really early on here in the States, and kind of been one of the leading people to try and get this series up and running.
Yeah. How did you, was your dad into this sort of bike riding, or was it something, how did you get into it as a kid?
Yeah. So, naturally you kind of do what your parents were doing. So every weekend when I was 2 years old, I'd be going to these events with my parents. My dad was riding, competing. So, I was just going to these events, and my dad said he wanted to wait till I was about 12 years old to start riding motorcycles. And I was on a bike when I was about 3-4 years old, just because I was around it all the time, So it was a easy thing to jump into, and just started riding, and it got to the point where my dad wasn't really, it wasn't for his career anymore. He wanted to work with me and push me. So just it was our thing. We'd go every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and ride from 7 a.m. till around noon, and go home and do other stuff. So it was just a family thing, I guess, and continuing now because I don't want a real job.
Well, I was just going to ask that. Like, most kids get to 18, 19, and there's this go to university, get a job, be boring pressure, and like you've broken free of that mold. Like, how do you pull it off?
Well, I did go to school and go to college. School was always kind of important in my family. Well, no one before me actually graduated college in my family, but everyone went to high school. And when I've grown up, I had to do all my homework before I can go outside and ride my bicycle. That's all I wanted to do, was just be outside growing up. So, from a young age, I kind of had that, put your head down and get to work mentality. And right out of high school, I started going to just like a local junior college and I knew I wanted to do engineering, which looking back at it, that was a very difficult field to get through school. But I did, I think, 5 years of junior college. And once I got to the state level school or university, I trucked through 3 years of engineering classes. And, by the time I graduated, I could have been a doctor if I did I think it took me like 8 years or something like that to get an engineering degree, but I still was doing it and riding and competing at the same time. And I've done a little bit of engineering work. I did some stuff for a helmet company, and it was really fun at first. I was breaking helmets every day for 2 weeks, and then it turned into me sitting at a computer and doing CAD work. And I was like, I absolutely cannot stand this. So I'm just full-time racer. It's what I'm trying to do, and keep that ball rolling.
Geez, now I've before we chatted, I spent some time wandering around your Instagram page, and some of it looks quite scary, I'll be honest with you. Now, I used to be a professional whitewater kayaker. I used to fall off waterfalls for a living. But some of the hits I've seen you take on Instagram, bikes landing on top of you and stuff like that is, yeah. How do you keep picking yourself back up again?
I think the one you're referencing right now is where I broke my wrist a couple weeks ago. And that was just a really unfortunate crash. And I was so annoyed. It was a really small mistake, but just really high consequences. And sometimes it gets the best of you. And I haven't ridden again yet. I plan on riding literally later today or tomorrow. And it's been, 8-9 weeks since I broke my wrist. And I've just been, I don't know. I can't sit still. So getting back on the bike is everything. It's motivating me to get back out there and do it again. And, the first time you ride or something after an injury is always a little sketchy, but if you've done your homework and the physical therapy and, go in knowing you're not going to get hurt, you'll be all right and get back in the swing of things quick.
Is your body a little bit like mine? When I see a physical therapist, a new one, and they ask me, what have you broken and what have you damaged in the past? I often say jokingly, but it's quite serious, that the list of what I haven't buggered up is shorter than what I have. So is your body heading in that direction as well, or have you managed to keep it in one piece?
I've managed to be all right. I've had a bad string off and on last couple of years, but, for a long time leading up to, I've been really good. I've only broken 2 different bones in my feet. I tore my knee a couple of years ago, which was the worst thing I've ever done. And I never want to do that again. So I had ACL, meniscus surgery. That was horrendous. And then broke my wrist recently. It was a really small, that was just annoying. Couple fingers, but I've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood. I got my wood bench here that not too much more happens to me.
So when you're competing, you're often going faster across terrain that is pretty. I don't know how you describe it, but it's pretty treacherous sometimes. You're balancing and moving, and how do you balance training to better yourself without risking without risking injury at the same time? Because it's a very fine line.
Yeah, there definitely is, and I think I've been doing this long enough now to, I know what I'm capable of doing or not doing. So if I don't find something, if I can't think in my head how I'm going to do it ahead of time, I just won't do it because it's not worth the risk. And like you said, I don't want to get hurt practicing. I don't want to get hurt in general, but it's hard to find that fine line of like how hard I'm going to push when I'm training and not over push. And a lot of times I'm by myself in the mountains. So I have one of those Garmin spot trackers in case something does happen, but I don't want to think about that happening. So it's just being in a positive mindset. And, if you've done something long enough, you know what you're capable of doing and just kind of stick to that.
And do you manage to find other people to train with, or as you say, you're on your own quite a lot?
I got a solid little group of guys around me now that do the same thing I do. So, sometimes, during the week, those people will be working. So maybe I'll try and ride when they're doing stuff, later in the afternoon. Sometimes we'll end up doing night rides. So we'll start in the afternoon and run helmet lights and finish in the dark. So it all just depends, but plenty of times I've ridden by myself enough that, it feels like you're going through the motions a little bit more because you're by yourself and you've been doing it for so long. But at the same time, I don't really want to be doing something else. So I might as well go out and ride.
Too right. So just wandering around what I know about you, you've medaled at the X Games. The X Games always, to me, feels like one of the spectacles of extreme sports. Just talk to me about it. How was your first X Games? Like, you're surrounded by maybe the great and good of riders, and you're the new boy. How was it? And what do you like about it? What do you enjoy?
Yeah, my first X Games was, I think, 2012. Our sport's not in anymore, but man, to go there to that scale of an event was awesome. Like, the athlete lounge, I was like, what is this? Like, there's free food in here 24/7 and catered breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, I've never seen that before. That's like something for business conferences. And, here we had all these top level athletes, and I go in there and there's like Ryan Sheckler hanging out in there who, had his own TV show. And I'm like, this guy has no idea who I am, but I'm here hanging out. So that part of the event was awesome. Racing in the big Staples Center in LA was really cool as well. And then the last couple of years we did X Games was in Austin, Texas, where they have the big MotoGP track. So all in all, just a really cool experience. I got to travel when they did internationally, when they did the International X Games a couple of times. We went to Brazil, and I got 6 medals. I never got a gold though, so that's one of my few regrets in life. Didn't get a gold medal at X Games, but I got 6 of them, so that's something at least.
Well, something to tell your kids one day. And am I right in thinking that is Red Bull picking up part of the sort of endurocross sort of scene of competition scene?
Yeah, Red Bull has a really big presence, especially in Europe for the hard enduro events. You have the Red Bull Hare Scramble, which is Erzberg Rodeo. It's like the craziest 4-hour off-road race. It's been on TV a bunch of times, and the whole premise of the race is you have 4 hours, and they only want one finisher in 4 hours. It hasn't happened yet, but the race is so hard. So I've podiumed there twice, and when I first became a Red Bull athlete, actually, I went there and I got second. And a couple other really big races in Europe are all Red Bull sponsored, and now here in the States, Red Bull's kind of hopping on board with some of our events. So I think it's definitely it definitely adds to the prestigiousness of an event when Red Bull has its name on it.
100%. So what you're saying, these races are like survival of the fittest. Whoever gets the furthest wins.
Yeah, but it's also not the fittest too. Like, you need bike skills. So it's a mixture of fitness and technical abilities, because it kind of depends on the event. Like, some guy will get 8th at one race and the next one he'll go and win at. So it just, whichever race caters to that person's style a little bit more seems to work in their favor. And fitness is obviously a big part of it, because it's just tough and it beats you down.
Are you in the gym as well as riding a bike for training, or what's your training schedule look like?
Yeah, I do a little bit of gym work, not a ton. Most of my gym work is just to try and still rehabilitate my knee injury from 2 years ago, like the rehab process of that and getting strength back in my legs. And then most of my training is on the bike, on the bicycle, stationary bike, or running. So a lot of it's just cardio based. And like this morning, I did a 5-mile run before we did this with my dogs, just to, get out and do something. And I think this afternoon, my wife's busy working, so I'm on dad duty for the afternoon after this call.
Good job. And how old are your kids, or your kid?
I just got one. My son, he's not quite 2 yet, so he's all over the place. And the other day I got him. He already has a Strider. He's got an electric bicycle. He's got a normal bicycle. He's got a tricycle. He's already fully decked out, anything wheels related. But the other day we were outside and he was rolling around, and I mean, he can't even talk yet. And I was like, pop a wheelie. And sure enough, he put his little bicycle into a wheelie. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do you know this stuff? He watches too much YouTube of riding, I guess.
Well, yeah. A bit like you when you were a kid, though. You just absorb stuff by accident. You just watch what's going on.
Yeah, you're there, you're watching it happen. And, for months when he was younger, I had his little thing. I would just push him around on it. I'd be like, oh, wheelie. And I would pop it up for him. But I think, with time and doing it over and over, he realized what a wheelie meant and did it on his own.
That's crazy. There's a picture somewhere I saw of Tiger Woods in his father's garage when he was about 6 months old, maybe, in a high chair. And he's holding a little plastic golf club. And his dad's there with AstroTurf practicing putting because his dad was a scratch golfer, played off pretty much zero. And I don't think that if you're around that and just absorbing it from such a little age, you can't help but have a natural flair and talent for it later.
So I need to start getting my kid a little plastic golf club so that way he can make the real money later on.
I was going to say, yeah, there's some sports that have real cash and other sports
figure this out. Yeah. At the end of the day, I get by and I enjoy my life, and that's really all I can ask for. So I'll take it.
Well, you can't ask. There's not very many people who genuinely get to do what they love day in, day out, and get to go and piece their life together in anyhow at all, just off the back of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. More money, more problems sometimes,
Well, the IRS has a bigger chunk of you. So there's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Screw those guys.
So the question that I've been asked on more than thousands of times, and I've never been a Red Bull athlete, but you know what's coming. The amount of kids who say, "How do I become a Red Bull athlete?" Have you? I tried for years with every energy drink when I was a trials rider, and they have to choose you. It's one of those things where you're chosen. You don't really, or maybe someone puts a word in for you, but it's never going to be from you sending a resume in to Red Bull and then be like, oh, this guy looks pretty good. Like you got to, obviously you got to go out there. You either got to put like crazy content on social media or YouTube or have that kind of following, or you need to go out to these races and events and whatever sport you do and be near the top. If you're a young guy doing crazy moves and maybe you're not winning, but you're out there taking risk, like you're going to catch their eye. So it's not really you submitting in a sponsorship proposal. It's just being in the right place, right time, right sport. And you got to catch someone's eye and they'll swoop you up. So you got to be shit hot first and sponsored second, as opposed to trying to push it the other way around.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. For me, I had someone when I was racing Endurocross and I was going to switch teams one year. And I think someone had been bugging the Red Bull guy in America for a while. Like, you got to get this kid. He's really good. And then it kind of just eventually worked out. But it's like, I never called that guy. I never emailed him. Like, he's the one that contacted me. And I think it's kind of gone the same for some of the other athletes.
Mm. And when you look around those other Red Bull athletes, because there's the ability of being great at whatever your sport is. But is there any particular like human characteristics that is particularly sells yourself well? Maybe like if you're a jerk permanently. Like,
yeah. So
sponsored or what?
I think Red Bull really likes people with like some sort of personality that is really easygoing and can get along with anyone. So you see a lot of their people they get these riders who have good personalities, like bicycle guys. They don't want someone who's super arrogant and kind of standoffish to people or mean. Like, they want someone who can go and hang out at a bar and meet people somewhere at this convention and talk to people. And you have to be really personable. So they want someone with like a bubbly personality that, can just talk to people and connect and communicate. And, we're ambassadors for their brand, right? So, Red Bull now it's obviously to the point where it's beyond just an energy drink. It's its whole brand that just anything awesome and extreme, you think of Red Bull and Red Bull media. And, so with social media, a lot of companies, you become an ambassador for these things. Oh, you become an ambassador and they want you to post like 10 things a month and you get 20% off and you get this and that. And I talked to the Red Bull athlete manager and he's like, yeah, I don't care if you post anything, just keep doing whatever you do. Like, we want you to be you, not something that's forced.
And wow, that's cool. I was just thinking, by the way, for your little boy, Red Bull sponsors a Formula One racing team, the motor cars. Now that would be a job worth earning from.
Yeah, that'd be a good job.
That's like
that's the elite. That's how you know you're at the elite. Like you got F1 and then MotoGP, and then we're all kind of just peasants doing what we do for fun and getting by.
I love it. Now, there's a lot of guys out there who will be watching this, who will be, they'll be hobbyists in terms of endurocross. They've got a job through the week, and then at the weekends they go out and ride their bike off road on trails or whatever else. What's some of the best advice that you've been given as a rider that's really helped you improve and up your game?
There was a really top rider when I first was kind of getting in the scene who won multiple championships here in the States. Unfortunately, he passed away at a race doing the Baja 1000 in Mexico, but his name was Kirk Caselli, and he was kind of like a inspiration for a lot of people. And he put stuff in my head in the beginning when I was riding that has really stuck with me. And it's basically, he gave me a bunch of tips on how to conserve energy and make the bike work for you, not you do all the work. So, if you do a long, like especially these hard enduro races, it's, if you race Romaniacs, you can easily do 5 hours a day on the bike, 4 days in a row. You're riding that long on the bike, you don't want to be wasting energy. That's where practicing, working on your technique and make everything second nature and conserving energy on those long days is what really helps push riders to the next level.
Yeah, you've got to have enough gas in the tank to do tomorrow as well, hey?
Exactly.
And I guess there's a degree of luck involved as well when it comes to the mechanics of your bikes and that sort of thing. Obviously better gear should not break quite as quickly as crap gear, but there's got to be a fine balance there as well.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to buy the super cheapy stuff to put on your bike and get top quality stuff. But I mean, last couple of years, obviously we always normally pretty much have the best stuff sponsor wise to put on our bikes. And I've missed out on essentially 2 championships. I mean, I can't blame it completely on the bike, but I've snapped 2 chains in races and lost championships just by enough points where it could have been gone the other way if I didn't have a chain break. So, I can't blame the bike or anyone in that scenario. It just happened. But there's other stuff where, if something happens, it could definitely be in the prep side of things where you missed out.
And so what prep do you do for yourself and the bikes before a race? I mean, do you put a new chain on before every race just to stack the odds in your favor, or how far do you go?
Well, the good thing is now for me, I got my mechanic to do most everything for the race bike, but at home, what I change most probably is tires. With what we're doing with Endurocross and Hard Enduros, we're running like really soft compound tires, but they obviously just don't last as long. So I change tires quite a bit. And other than that, just keeping an eye on your chain and sprockets. You don't really need to change your chain every race, but sometimes we'll do a really rocky race that has a bunch of stuff kind of dragging the chain across. And after the race's mechanic will look and be like, hey, this thing definitely got hit quite a few times. We're just going to change this out.
Yeah, because I'll try and find some clips off Instagram or YouTube of you riding to put into this interview, if that's okay, just so people can see what you're actually doing on a bike. Because unless you know what hard enduro or endurocross is or anything like that, you and the bike take quite a punishment, eh?
Yeah, I just tell people that what I do is, there's traditional marathons, which would be like a motocross race or street bike racing. And then you have like the new craze of Spartan and mud races where people just do stupid obstacle courses and torture themselves. That's basically what I do on my motorcycle. I think it's a pretty good analogy.
I like it. What do you do for a job? I get paid to break machinery for a job.
Yeah. I get paid to beat myself up and my machinery through ridiculous courses.
If you ever have to go for a job one day somewhere, you can put that on your CV or the resume that you put.
Demolition expert or something like that.
Expert. Wow. That's bonkers. So one of the things that I'm very, very curious about, and I am jumping around and I kind of apologize for it, but in my experience, the difference between somebody who's meddling at something and the person who is 12th place, 18th place, further down the pack is often what happens between their ears. You can have for instance, one of my very good friends is arguably one of the best freestyle whitewater kayakers on planet Earth. I mean, what he can't do in whitewater in a kayak is just not worth doing. But the moment you put him in a competition, he's terrible. Like he just
falls
can't.
Apart.
Hey?
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like between your ears is crucial. And now, once you've won, then you know you can do it, and things change. Like that's it. And someone getting 10th, 12th place, they definitely have the skill to have one lap or like little snippets here and there that are going to be better than the person winning. But the person winning has been at it longer normally, and their head game is just so much stronger that they can just be so much more consistent. And once you get that head game together and consistency, then someone who's younger and likes to be a little more wild, they can start putting stuff together, and that's when they become dangerous.
Yeah. And do you have any particular strategies that you use for your head game? What's going on between your ears as just before the race, for instance?
Yeah, you kind of just go on the starting line and be like, oh, none of these guys have nothing for me. Like you just got to have this self-boosted confidence to know that you're the real deal and they can't touch you.
Okay, that's cool. It's very interesting that everybody has their own thing before the race and on the start line that they do, and everybody is completely different. So some people will, on a start line I've interviewed, will pretend that they're not racing against anybody else. It's them, and they're going to go and beat themselves. And they're going
to do the best they can and not worry about everyone else. That's good. Sometimes I'm just going to get through these first two corners and then I'll figure it out. Which is true, because it's pretty chaotic. You got a bunch of people going into the first turn, and you're like, I got to get through these first two corners clean, and then we'll make the best of it. And
so you up for being one of the first two through the first couple of corners, so you get a clear run through.
I mean, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be, but you're not always there, unfortunately.
You're in the fist fight behind.
Yeah.
And then during the race, do you have any self-talk going on? Are you kind of mentally coaching yourself in any way, or are you?
Yeah, there's definitely moments where I'll make a couple mistakes and I'm like, I shake my head to myself. I don't know if I physically shake my head, but I'm like, what are you doing? Like, get it together. You can do better than this. So I got to give myself little pep talks if I have like a string of stupid mistakes that I shouldn't be doing. And the other thing I do is, like, if I find myself kind of slouching or letting off, like you got to just, pain is like temporary, like push through it and keep going.
Okay, cool. And you just said that, and it makes it sound remarkably simple, but part of me thinks it's really not.
Yeah, it's not that easy sometimes to push through. You're like completely out of breath, heart rate's near maxing point, and you got to be like, you got to just, like, you can hang out and rest afterwards. It's like, keep getting through this. You can do it.
So I'm really curious about this bit, but are you trying to, when you're racing, obviously you've got the throttle and the engine that can do work for you, but are you also using the momentum of the bike to try, how are you manipulating the bike, I suppose, as a whole to do as much of the work for you as possible?
Yeah, you're basically just trying to work with the bike and use your legs and arms to kind of work with the suspension. And, your legs obviously are way bigger than your arms. There's a lot more muscle mass there. So a lot of the a lot of the stuff you do is just to prevent arm fatigue and not hold on as tight and just use your legs more. Like people think we just sit down and the bike does everything for us. And that definitely really is not the case. I'm pretty worn out after a 4-hour race. And I'm sure someone that doesn't do our sport, but they're fit, whatever they do, if they came and try to do what we did for, 2 hours and not even near the level of what we did, they'd be like, oh, my lower back hurts, or, it's just not a normal stance to be in that you're doing on a normal basis.
I suppose part of that as well is because they're trying to physically drag how much do your bikes weigh? Are they up there in like 100 kilos, or how much do they weigh?
Yeah, a little over 100 kilos, 225, 230 pounds. I don't know. Is that like, I don't know, stones. Are you guys still doing stones?
I do kilos. So it's about 100 kilograms. Yeah. It's, what's that? 16 stone, 17 stone, maybe?
Yeah. I think I have no idea. I think stones is weird to me. I can't wrap my head around that one.
And so I guess that's often the difference that,
but pounds is annoying too. I just feel like everyone should go to grams and kilograms. It's so much easier.
It would make my life so much easier. When I travel to the US, I'm converting backwards and forwards into what I know to pounds.
And you guys have miles, but then everything else you do is kind of metric. You guys, I think, are even almost more backwards than we are.
That's it. It's so freaking confusing. And then, the one I had a couple of years ago was, was it aluminium and aluminum as being exactly the same thing? I was like, what on earth are we talking about here?
Yeah, that one's confusing to me.
That's it. So, are you tempted to do any of the longer sort of multi-day, multi-stage rides, like across the Sahara, or any of those things? What are you tempted for in the future?
I don't know. Those rally races are crazy, man. There's a ton of risk, and I think I might value my life a little bit too much to become a rally racer, because, I can go there and do fine. I can ride all that stuff, no problem. But, to be winning those races, you have to take a ton of risk, and that's not me. So I appreciate what those guys do, and I'm just going to keep letting them do it because I don't want to.
So talk to me about that risk, because from an outsider looking in, what you do looks just as risky as what they do. Maybe, flying down through Baja on a bike, or across the Sahara is another one I've seen. It looks quite the same in terms of risk.
Yeah, you would assume so on the outside, but if you're comfortable at something, you're used to it, So the guys that doing the Dakar rally, they're crossing the Sahara Desert. So they don't have a GPS or anything like that. They're literally just going off a roll chart that says like straight for 38 kilometers. And then it shows an arrow of like a right-handed turn at, after they go straight for 38K. So they're basically just going off waypoint racing. So they don't know what's ahead of them, and they're riding in the dunes, and the dunes are unpredictable. There's soft spots in the sand. There could be a huge drop off on the backside of a cliff. And these bikes are built for speed. Like they really don't work good in any other scenario other than what they're meant for. So the amount of speed these guys carry and to not know what's coming up next is a whole lot different than me at slower speeds and following arrows and actually knowing where I'm going and being able to look ahead at the race course instead of, kind of looking at my thing and seeing how many kilometers I've been going straight for. And so navigation is a huge aspect of those rallies, and just having to look at your little dashboard to see where you're going and you're heading, and looking ahead and making sure you don't fall into a ditch. That's crazy to me.
And they must be doing 60, 80 miles an hour at the same time as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some times where they're even doing 100 miles an hour easily. If they're on a big, flat, dusty road, they're flat out in a speed tuck. Like, it's crazy. So like car rally racing, they have onboard co-driver, right? Telling them how sharp the turn is, when the turn's coming up. Like, these guys are doing it all on their own. So when we do, I do GPS races as well, and it's really tricky to navigate and ride because, you're not in a 4-wheeled harness situation. Like, you're just on 2 wheels, and you can go down really easily when you're trying to navigate.
And so when you're doing hard enduro, for instance, how much preparation time do you get to know the route you're going to ride over, memorize different bits of it, work out strategies for different bits of it? Do you get much opportunity?
Yeah, it really depends on the race. If we're able to go out ahead of time and look at stuff, like when we race Red Bull Romaniacs, it's the 4-day rally to the mountains in Romania. And we don't know really anything ahead of time. I've only done the race once, but everything's just following GPS and blue ribbons hung on trees every half mile or so. So that race, you don't know anything. And a lot of the other ones, we can show up early and walk. So you walk a ton of it, but obviously you can't walk the whole race, and your legs are sore before you even do the actual race sometimes because you're doing so much hiking. But it's a huge advantage to get there early and know what's coming up ahead. You can find, some little A lines, quote unquote, cheater lines to skip little sections or put rocks in to help you out here and there. So it's a huge advantage to know where you're going.
Well, I guess it all comes down to how much time you've got. I interviewed an ultra distance off-road mountain bike racer called a girl called Lael Wilcox the other week, and she was talking about how she sometimes goes and rides the route. I mean, she does like the Trans Am, American Trans Am bike race. They go from where do they go? Oregon to New York or something like that.
I don't know, but it's so far. But yeah, like you can go, if you go ahead of time, when she can push. All right. So she does this in advance. She could be like, okay, I know this hill's only 2 miles. I don't have to pace myself on this one. I can push a little bit harder and make time. So that's how it is for us. If we go into like some really technical rock section, we don't know how long it is. Say we push hard in the beginning and then we just run out of steam and we're dragging by the time we get out of it. Sometimes it's better if you know how long something is or where the good lines is. You can get stuck in a hole. So it's, for her, that takes a ton of time because I can't imagine how long that is to pre-ride that. But when it comes down to the race situation, she knows when she should push or when she should pace herself. Yeah,
I think the Trans Am from Oregon to New York, well, I think it's New Jersey maybe. I think she took, I better get this right, something like 8 weeks beforehand to ride it slow, or 6 weeks to ride it slow, and then raced it over 19 days.
Oof. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's hardcore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, when you come to riding, like if you have a breakage of some gear or something, do you carry spares, or like if you break something, are you finished?
Yeah, so I guess right in my bike behind me here in the seat, I can pop my seat off, and I have like toolkits hidden underneath there and spare brake levers and a shifter, so I can. A lot of times you break a shifter, you'll be stuck, maybe in second gear. So in the fast stuff, you're going to be going nowhere, and you can get through the technical stuff in second gear. So I carry miscellaneous tools kind of on the bike, and sometimes I'll ride with a fanny pack with stuff if it's, a longer, slower paced day, but shorter, fast races, I don't like having extra weight on my body. I got to carry around, rather just put it on the bike.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right, Cody. So tell me, here you are today, sponsored by Red Bull. You're up there with the top in the world when it comes to what you're doing. What does the next 3 to 5 years of messing around with bikes look like for you? Where are we going to be seeing you in 5 years' time? What's going to be different or changed?
I don't know. Hopefully more or less the same thing I got going on. Maybe winning more races would be good.
Always.
And hopefully no more injuries. Yeah. But, I got 1 more year left on contract. So next year. And as of right now, I still have some stuff to prove. So I plan on re-signing and keeping this rolling.
Awesome. And you don't have it. Do you have any aspirations in that 3 to 5 year window? Is there one event that you're like, that's the one that I am going to win? I'd
really like to go to Erzberg in Austria and win the Erzberg Rodeo, the Rebel Hare Scramble. That's definitely probably the biggest race for us publicity wise. So I finished on the podium twice. To win that one would be massive for me. And I went to Red Bull Romaniacs once, and I had I was not happy. People would say it was a good performance, but I was not happy with it all. I finished 12th. I had some issues day one and day three, so I lost a lot of time on a 4-day rally like that. So I want to go back. Winning that would be really tough because it takes more experience than I've had. But to be top 5, top 3, I need to redeem myself there.
Sounds like it. And what is there that you think you need to focus on in order to make those things happen for yourself?
I need to focus on going faster, longer during the day. A little more of a rally than a hard enduro than I anticipated. So I just know that I need to practice pushing harder at higher speeds going up to that event, and I'll be ready for it.
And do you need to change the setup of the bike at all to achieve that, or just open the throttle longer?
Open the throttle longer and a couple other different little things. But for the most part, just, getting that mental confidence, knowing that I can do that speed for longer periods.
Cool. All right. Well,
and fitness, I guess.
Fitness. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you always think you're fit, but there's always someone that's going to be working harder than you. That's kind of my motivation sometimes. I'm like, oh, that person's probably working harder than me. So then I put that effort in. Who knows if they are or not, but that's my motivator.
It's often it's often what they're doing, I would guess, off the bike is actually they're probably the unobvious stuff. You're pretty well aware of who your competitors are and how many hours.
Yeah, obviously that.
Bike. But what are they like? Are they into yoga and meditation for 3 o'clock in the morning? What's that little hidden?
Yeah, we don't know. I gotta see what they're doing. I don't want to give. Sometimes I give away probably too many of my secrets and help them out, but it's okay. It's good competition.
It's I don't think you can give away too many of your secrets, and I'll tell you the reason why. If you give away all your secrets, people assume that they're not secrets and that you've got loads more up your sleeve, and that actually makes you more intimidating.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, not a bad idea.
Because then they're like, shit, if he's giving this away for free and he's willing, what else does he have tucked away there that's a real secret?
Yeah, that's true. So you said you did whitewater rafting. Did you know? So I have a buddy of mine that rides. His name's Teo. He's like a shorter dude. Yeah, that guy is gnarly. I've ridden dirt. I've never gone whitewater rafting. I should do that. There's a river literally 30 minutes from my house where they do that. But it's the tourist ones, I don't want to do that. I want the real thing. Anyone could do the tourist thing.
Yeah.
But I've ridden with Teo a couple times, and this guy showed up. He's like this short, super ripped dude with Red Bull hat. I'm like, who is this guy? And we started riding. I'm like, this guy has zero fear. And then I turned to find out he was one of Red Bull's, one of the first Red Bull athletes, I think, in the States for kayaking.
That's right. Yeah.
And I watched his videos and I'm like, okay, this makes absolute perfect sense why he's a freak on a motorcycle. He'll just try anything.
He was in fairness, he's a super nice guy who's got far too much energy, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's like 6 a.m. and we were doing this dirt bike camping trip thing. 6 a.m. and he's walks out with his jeans on his shirt off, and he's all ripped, and he's like, "Where we going riding today?" Just fully amped on the day, and everyone's dragging, kind of trying to get going, and he's just ready to go, 24/7. I need to figure out what his diet is. I need to get those energy levels up.
I wonder I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have a super strict diet, if he's just naturally I think if he'd have been 20 years younger, he'd be diagnosed with ADHD at school and be whacked full of Ritalin.
Oh yeah, probably for sure. He'd be taking some crazy medication to calm him down, and it wouldn't make him who he is today. That's for sure.
That's it. I've only kayaked with him a few times, and I've watched him do some things that I've looked at, and I'm like, what you're going to do? What? That's even if that goes perfectly, you will still break ribs. There is the best outcome possible is 3 broken ribs. Do you know what I mean? And the worst outcome is a lot worse than 3 broken ribs.
Yeah.
He's it'll be fine. I'm like, fuck that.
And then somehow he manages to not get hurt, I'm guessing.
No, he's had his fair share of dings, but he does seem to I don't know. I don't know whether he did martial arts or anything as a kid, but he's got like that ability to bounce
Got crazy
off
ninja skills. Yeah.
like roll away from things. How do you manage with that when you know because you have I'm going to guess, because in kayaking I have a split second. It's not a full second. The world goes slow, and you're like, oh shit, this is going to hurt. And then you start like getting ready to suck in the hurt. What goes through your head in that moment? Is it the same thing, or?
Man, yeah, exactly. Like sometimes you get lucky and get out of it. That video we were talking about earlier when I broke my wrist, as soon as my foot slipped, I was like, no, like I never let go of the bars. I was just trying to get the bike away from me, and it just landed right on top of me. Stuck my arm out to catch myself and broke. I don't know. Just there's that split second where if it's the right scenario, when in doubt, throttle out, you get out of it. And that one there, there was no way I could. Everyone was like surprised. All I broke was my wrist. They're like, how'd you not break a rib? And I'm like, you should have seen that bruise on my side that I had a week later. But I guess my body's just tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's something that I almost learned, which is almost when you see little kids fall, they don't stiffen up.
They're so resilient. My kid takes the biggest hits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're good. You're all right. Like but they're meant to fall though, right? Like that's the learning process. So you don't do it later. So I don't think I'm as agile now as I was. Like when I was 25, I could probably pretty much get out of anything. And now I think I've lost a little bit of pep in my step. Can't get out of it as quickly.
And maybe some of that's in between the ears as well. Maybe it's not physically real. Maybe it's just like that 0.1%.
It's just that excuse. Oh, I'm older now. I can't get out of it as easily. I need to quit thinking that, I guess.
Yeah. Because people do. I interviewed a guy earlier today who's nobody's ever heard of him before, but he did that Trans Am Oregon to New Jersey bike race on a mountain bike. 66 years old. And he did it in like 22 days or something like that, which pretty much means he cycled for 18, 19 hours a day. And you and I've got no excuses, mate.
No. I'm really pretty excited for whenever I do retire. I'm just going to show up with like jeans and like a flannel on like trail rides with people. And they're going to be like, who invited this guy? And my whole goal is to be like that 66-year-old guy and just be like, stomp on these people and be like, what? You got to learn how to ride better. So I don't know. I kind of like that discreet guy who's just an avid enthusiast trainer who can go out and just dominate like that.
I've always wanted to have a bike or a car that looks from all aspects.
Oh, it looks like a complete,
off.
It should be in the junkyard.
That's it. And it's got no badges on it. And it's like, I don't know, it's a Ford or it's something, but underneath the hood is stacks of horses. And you can pull up against a boy racer at the lights and he thinks he's got you. And then you just put your foot down and leave him for smoke.
It's the sleeper. You got the sleeper, no one expects it.
It's my big aspiration in my future to go do that. That's
there you go.
Now, huge amounts of people, my friend, are gear freaks, and so somebody's into riding endurocross. They're a hobbyist. What's your top 2 tips for setting their bikes up for themselves?
Step 1 is gummy tires. You need the special soft tires. It just makes your life so much easier. Like you just get that rear wheel traction. I mean, same with, MotoGP, like the tires you buy at your dealership are not what, Honda HRC has on their MotoGP bikes. But with what we're doing with Hard Enduro now, there's plenty of tire companies that make these gummy tires, and it's the same thing that I'm running anyone else can buy. So gummy tires. And then I highly recommend just softening the suspension settings on the bike. Just open up the clickers so lets more oil through faster and basically softens up the bike. And we're not doing crazy high speeds and there's a lot of rocks and stuff. So it just makes the bike more supple and Uh, saves energy on your arms and your legs and your feet, makes it easier for you. And third option, I don't even know. Just do a ton of cardio so you're fit. Maybe some people lower the bike, but I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'3", so I have the opposite problem. A lot of people lower their bikes a little bit, maybe cut the subframe a hair and drop it down. But for someone like me, that makes no sense.
You want to add some height to it as opposed to take it away.
Yeah, exactly. I don't run a lower seat, but I have lowered foot pegs and they're a little bit farther back. So that's what I recommend. Get some foot pegs that maybe are a little bit farther back than the standard, because the standard bikes aren't really meant for what we're doing. So if you get, 5 or 10 mil back foot pegs, 5 mil, I think mine are 5 mil lower, 5 mil back, and helps get more rear end traction.
Cool. And what about personal safety gear? Because there's a fine balance between, I reckon, wearing enough so that you don't break your back and not wearing so much that you can't move and you just look like the Michelin Man.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't ran any of the new neck braces recently, but there's a couple of companies that make neck braces, and I tried them in the beginning, and I felt like I was worse off because I couldn't ride. I think 'cause I'm taller, I'm a little more hunched over, and I couldn't put my head far enough back to look and see where I needed to go next. So I don't run neck braces, but for sure a top grade quality helmet. You want a higher price point helmet because it's what you got on there is pretty important and you want to take care of it. I've never been knocked out. I know quite a people who have gone full lights out. So I've come close once. I remember seeing like tunnel vision and I got up and I rung my bell, but luckily I was still coherent, wasn't asking where we were. So helmet is for sure the most important, and good quality boots comes next. A lot of times it really bothers me when I go to the local track or local riding area and I see the family that they want to look cool, right? So they spend all this money for flashy riding gear, the new hip stuff, a cool helmet, but it's not an expensive helmet. It's just a generic graphics on a helmet. And then they don't have any boots on their kid. I'm like, what are you like? I literally wore jeans and a shirt till I was 12 years old every time I rode, unless it was an event, because I wore boots and a helmet that were important, So boots and helmet for sure. Number one, I wear knee braces just because I've had knee injuries, and I wore them before I had the knee injury, and there's stigma whether or not to run them, but I feel naked without them, so I'm going to keep wearing those.
Cool. Well, I guess the last thing for me to say is A, thank you, but B, when's that gold medal coming?
Oh man, I don't know, because X Games dropped us, so who knows when. I'll find a gold medal somewhere else to win.
You got to go and put a line in the sand and go, by this date I will have that medal.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Next year, I just got the email for Erzberg Rodeo, June 16th through 19th next year. That's the goal. I'm going to go and win that race.
Done, folks. You've heard it here first. Watch out for Cody Webb in where's it, Austria?
Austria, yeah.
Austria. Watch out for Cody Webb in Austria. It'll be on TV, I bet. And watch out for that gold medal. So the last thing I want to know, and I ask most people this question, is are you goal orientated or go with the flow?
Oh man, can you be a mixture of both? I don't know, because I usually just wing it with stuff and make it happen. But obviously I have those goals, but I think overall I'm probably go with the flow.
You go with the flow. Cool. Cody, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. We've even got a mutual friend, which is a bit bizarre because there you go, but that's incredible. When you see Teo, say hi from me. And I guess he's into house investing, investing in property and real estate these days, eh?
I believe so. Yeah, he's got like some crazy modern like concrete home. It looks really cool. He showed me photos of it. But yeah, that's a good market to be in once you get started.
That's it. It's just getting started is the hard bit. But say hey to Teo.
Yeah.
And we look forward to following you at We Get Outdoors. And if we can help you and support you in any way at all going forward, please reach out to us. We'd love to do whatever we can in any little way.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that and happy to come on today and make this happen.
Cheers, Cody. Stay awesome, bud.